can start this conference. Thank you, everybody, for being with us live from Slovenia, from Croatia, and of course, from the rest of Europe. If you are also focused on the topic we will discuss today, and in the month in which Europe is focused and celebrating the diversity, we will discuss the diversity and the risk which came with COVID-19, with Corona crisis, with pandemic, which is bringing new difficulties to everybody who are trying to be front runners on the topics of inclusion, of promoting diversity, and of course, combating discrimination in all different variations, especially when we talk about business, because community which will be together here today are mostly focused on challenging those issues from perspective of business community. My name is Domagoj Novokmet. I'm a journalist and I will be your host today. I'm very happy to have you with us for next 2 hours. First, we will be able to hear messages coming from the states, from the institutions which are here somehow to invite all of us to follow them in changing things. And after that, we will focus on best practices in companies who are aware of all issues which have to be challenged if we want that our development will be sustainable on all possible levels. Thank you very much. I won't take you much more time at the beginning, and I'm happy to invite Ms. Majda Buric. She's a State Secretary in Ministry of Labor, Pension System, Family and Social Policy of Croatia. Please.
Thank you. Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and greetings to everybody from Ministry of Labor, Pension System, Family and Social Politics. It's my pleasure to participate in this event today, which celebrates diversity, and thank you for inviting me. I'm very glad that this May has been designated as Diversity Month, and that we can put a spotlight on diversity as an issue. First of all, equality and equal treatment are fundamental values of our society, of our national legal framework, and of the EU. As a government, we make sure it's a principle embedded in all of our actions. But being from the Ministry of Labor, Pension System, Family and Social Policy, let me give a short overview of the situation in that area. The labor markets are constantly changing at first place, but with the global pandemic, we have truly found ourselves in these unprecedented times. A lot has changed overnight, and we had to adopt. Croatian government, like most, has reacted quickly to support our workers and businesses by offering job retention support, which we still provide to this day. These were instrumental to keep many businesses afloat, in particular SMEs, micro enterprises and self-employed. Instead of increasing employment support, we have opted for the job support and managed to maintain steady level of employment. So far, we have spent over 10 billion kunas, or almost €1.5 billion for the measures which have so far covered about 6,800,000 workers and 1,200,000 employers, and which are planned to be continued for the rest of the year. However, we are aware of financial support can only go so far. Businesses had to adopt to the economic standstill or to the very low activity. The pandemic has resulted in a paradigm shift. It has irretrievably changed the way we live and the way we work. The pandemic made us rethink everyday lives and everyday work, And we are trying to use this as an opportunity to introduce amendments and regulate remote work to better correspond to the new normal. We are already talking to social partners and other stakeholders about labor code amendments intent to make labor legislation more flexible and fit for the future. We understand that not only have we changed our business process patterns, but also the idea what is place of work. Even the civil service, which is not known to be very flexible, had to adopt, and we found that, for instance, remote work does work. The pandemic is a game changer. I think employers already realize that flexibility in terms of working time or place increases productivity, and this could be the way forward for those jobs that can afford it. Our common goal should not be only the creation of new jobs, but creation of new, better quality, inclusive jobs, which will enable integration of disadvantaged and vulnerable groups into the labor market. Just to give you an example, so far this government has invested close to $500 million to support employment of persons with disabilities by direct financial subsidies to employers for wages and responsible accommodation of the workplace, especially those who employ more than legally required, for whom we have increased amount and length of financial support. There are also benefits for the persons with disabilities themselves, who are provided training opportunities and personal assistance. More and more employers are recognizing their social responsibilities. So in 2020, we had an increase of 12% in the employment rate of persons with disabilities. Equality is one of the fundamental freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution. Croatia has a wide and horizontal anti-discrimination legislation, as well as the principle of equality and anti-discrimination built in all of the sectoral legislation. Even if the legal framework is there, we cannot ignore the fact that we have not reached the full equality. For instance, the gender employment gap is still 11.2%, which is only slightly better than EU 27 average. Youth employment is at 25.6%, which is significantly below EU 27 average, which is 31.5%. But this can be partly explained by the fact that in the age group 15 to 24, a lot of young people are still in education. So I assure you, we are committed to reducing the gaps. You are aware that recently on 8th of May in the Social Summit, European heads of state endorsed the new headline targets for the EU and set the course of for EU for the next decade until 2030. Those targets are set for employment, education, and poverty reduction. And we will also set our national targets to contribute. For instance, the target to reduce the gender employment gap is closely related to encouraging fathers to take up parental leave and for more equal sharing of domestic and family responsibilities. Also, it is related to early childhood education and care, because available and affordable kindergartens are a precondition for women to work. In the last years, we have successfully used the European Social Fund to support kindergartens by extending the working hours for those parents who have irregular or longer working time. Our role as a government is to create an environment that enables all women who want to work, but it is also up to the employers to hear more women. To achieve this, legal framework is not enough. We also need to fight stereotypes and traditional gender roles. I'm proud to say that I'm personally involved in the implementation of the project called Work Life for You, aimed at promoting women and family-friendly work environment. The Labor Ministry is the only ministry member of the Mumford Society. Same for young people. We cannot employ them ourselves, but we can do is make sure that young people have the right knowledge and skills to smoothly transition to the labor market. And what we continually do is support businesses to employ young people by providing financial subsidies for apprenticeship to make it easier for young people to enter the labor market. There is no better investment than to invest in the human capital. And let me conclude, world of work is changing. To be sustainable, to be resilient, and to be competitive, we need skilled but also content workforce. It has long been insufficient to only consider pay as working conditions. Nowadays, as productivity is generally rising, so are the demands and the expectations of workers. They want to have good and stimulating working conditions, but also rights as individuals outside of work, better work-life balance, and better living conditions. Thank you, everybody, for the invitation, and I hope today's discussion gives us food for thought. Once again, greetings from Ministry of Labor, Pension System, Family and Social Politics. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Buric, for your introduction. And now, unfortunately, we'll have to hear and see video message from Ms. Matea Ribic, State Secretary from the Ministry of Labor, Family, Social Affairs and Equal Opportunities of Slovenia, because she was not able to be with us.
Dear State Secretary Buric, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to participate at today's event. I would like to thank Diversity Charters Croatia and Slovenia for all their efforts in promoting diversity and actively participating in European Diversity Month. Equality and non-discrimination are fundamental human rights and an integral part of the European society. Everyone in the EU should be able to enjoy the same rights and freedoms and participate on the labor market and in the society in an equal manner, regardless of their personal characteristics, be it gender, disability, age, racial or ethnic origin. While the pandemic has affected all of us, its impact was mostly felt by the most vulnerable among us. That's why it is of utmost importance that the recovery is inclusive for all. The pandemic had and still has a major impact on our way of life and work. The measures taken during the lockdown gave us an opportunity to experience some forms of work much quicker than we normally would. We can expect that the share of remote work will also remain high in the future, also due to the green and digital transitions. Let me stress some of our positive experiences with remote work. There is better work-life balance, greater work hour flexibility, lower costs of work, not to mention the positive effects on the environment. But there are challenges as well which should be addressed. remote work poses important questions, such as how to supervise working time arrangements, taking into account the right to disconnect, how to ensure the appropriate work equipment, and to prevent additional occupational health and safety risks. While flexible working arrangements enable better work-life balance, they can as well put additional pressure on carers, these being predominantly women. Women were among the main agents of support during the pandemic. They also represent the majority of workers in occupational that were at the front line and not possible to do remotely. In addition, they do a lot of informal work and are largely still the main carers in the family. During the crisis, we adopted many measures to lower the pressure of the new normality on women and families, as well as to protect the most vulnerable groups of the population. Although the pandemic is not over, we must also look ahead. Now is the time to act for the well-being of each citizen, not only on the path to recovery, but especially in the green and digital transitions, also taking into account demographic trends. The future labour market must be responsive and resilient, but most of all, it must be inclusive for the whole population. One example of good practice regarding the promotion of care work distribution between women and men is a project called Action That, which we are implementing in Slovenia. It is aimed at raising awareness on the importance of actively involving men in fatherhood and equal distribution of paid and unpaid care work between women and men. We believe this is one of the preconditions for unleashing the potential of women in the labour market. Ensuring the conditions for a fair and inclusive labour market in green and digital transitions will be key for the future world of work and consequently society as a whole. Continuation of the discussion on mitigating the social and economic consequences of the crisis is one of the general objectives of the Slovenian Council presidency, along with contributing to the improvement of working and living conditions of all generations and addressing demographic challenges through life cycle approach. Successful and fair economic and social recovery must be based on a responsive, resilient and inclusive labour market. More than ever, it is important that we pursue quality sustainable work for better life quality of all generations, quality being reflected in the following aspects: ensuring safety and health at work, strengthening the relevant skills of workers, creating the conditions for reconciling professional and private life, as well as ensuring adequate pay for work. As already mentioned, one of the concrete ways to promote equality between women and men on the labour market is ensuring equal conditions for their participation. Especially in times of green and digital transitions, there is a need to strengthen gender mainstreaming in the world of new technologies with an emphasis on artificial intelligence. Slovenia supports initiatives and projects for promoting women in STEM professions, such as the project Female Engineer of the Year Award. The project has been implemented in Slovenia for several years in a row. As part of the Recovery and Resilience Plan, Slovenia will pay attention to measures to increase the participations of all groups in the labour market. We are planning measures for young people to enter the labour market as soon as possible, as well as measures for older persons to strengthen their skills for adapting to the needs of the changing labour market. One of our goals will be to ensure equal opportunities in the labour market and to continue with good practice that already exists. Ladies and gentlemen, we must do everything to maintain a fair and inclusive labour market and society that offer opportunities to all and protects the weakest. We must ensure that green and digital transformation do not create even greater gaps in equality and that no one is left behind. Together we are stronger, and with joint forces we are also more resilient to future challenges. Thank you for your attention.
That was the message from Ms. Matea Ribic, State Secretary of the Ministry of Labor, Family and Social Affairs and Equal Opportunities of the Republic of Slovenia. We were able now to hear the message from the states, but the state is not the only shareholder in this process. We need the cooperation of public institution, of business sector, of non-government civil society organizations. So it is very important to hear their perspective on this issue, especially in the COVID conditions. I'm pleased to introduce you now Barbara Zupancic, Director of the Institute Listina Raznolikosti Slovenia. Please.
Thank you for invitation. Dear State Secretaries from Croatia and Slovenia, Ms. Majda Buric and Ms. Matea Ribic, dear distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am happy and deeply honored for the opportunity to greet you all in the name of Slovenian Diversity Charter on this very special joint event with Croatian Diversity Charter. I'm also grateful for this occasion when we will take time and listen to managers, guests of the panel, who are true allies and supporters of the values of diversity, equality, and inclusion. I see today's roundtable as a continuation of the international roundtable, which we organized last December on International Human Rights Day. And already then, guests opened problems and opportunities, as well as evidence, which supported the fact that diversity, inclusion, and equality or equity are the key for successful fight against pandemic and post-pandemic recovery. We concluded our hot debates with open questions, and we are very proud on 170 Slovenian signatories who cherish and nurture values of D&I among their employees. Looking at the announcements of events taking place across Europe this month, I can only observe that they are asking all the similar questions everywhere, and many hopes for a way out of these difficult times are placed right on the shoulders of managers. But I say we should be aware of our interdependence, of complementarity, and each member of the society. We all should take responsibility for our actions on a micro or macro level, because this is the only way to a successful and sustainable society. If I present it in a more concrete way as a psychologist who works with people from vulnerable groups every day, besides promoting values of diversity charter in the workplace, people's well-being is affected not only by how they are treated in the companies, but also by policies and actions in a range of sectors, including education, health, social inclusions, and by the efforts of the countries to tackle poverty. And each of these sectors, together with employers and each member of the society, has to take responsibility and act with values. Fortune research just before pandemic hit the world showed that recessions typically haven't been part of the corporate conversation around diversity and inclusion, but that research showed that the D&I efforts present a potent source of strength for organizations as they weather tough times. And we are certainly in tough times now. COVID-19 consequences impacted every member of the society. However, vulnerable groups are the ones who lose the most. And today we are here to speak about companies' good practices, who are a very important part because they are helping the most vulnerable employees or possible employees to survive these tough times, to experience better well-being, more inclusion, equality, which finally, I'm sure, will result in more empathy and belonging. I can confirm that empathy and belonging are crucial in times of crisis. Empathy helps to understand how others experience the world, and it is crucial for more inclusion inside of the company and outside with our clients. So belonging is a completely subjective feeling. You can't demand it from the employees. You can only create conditions to encourage it. So with this strategic approach towards diversity and inclusion, I strongly believe that we can create the conditions for more empathy and belonging of employees, because every crisis, regardless of its origin, generate stress, anxiety, sensitivity, which varies from individual to individual, and that affects work. So for me, the real question in these times is how to address this unique experience of stress, or with other words, how to address unique experience of inclusion of our employees. I strongly believe that times like this should be the moment to stop, to unite and come together. And we should not leave no one behind, as we heard before. I'm happy that in Europe, we stepped together in the celebration of European Diversity Month for the first time this year. And I'm almost sure that this celebration will become tradition. And I strongly believe also that we will create much more joint events with Croatia. We are neighbors after all, and we can learn from each other. I wish us all fruitful discussion and a happy European Diversity Month. It is also said that wise people know how to ask right questions. So let me to be wise, avoiding to struggle finding answers, with asking two simple questions. Isn't diversity and inclusion true story of love? And will us, the present humans, ignore or accept love and harmony? Thank you. I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Zupancic, and thank you not only for introduction, but also for opening questions and for pointing on issues which maybe were not in focus enough before this crisis, which definitely pushed everybody to change at least a bit. Now we are coming back to Zagreb, and I'm happy to introduce Miriam Matakoshi, Director of Croatian Business Council for Sustainable Development.
Thank you, Domagoj. And well, first of all, it's very difficult for me now to meet the inspiring speech that Barbara just gave. But now you know why we at Diversity Charter Croatia enjoy working with our Slovenian partners. I also want to thank State Secretaries Buric and Ribic for giving us the framework, the legal framework. But as was already mentioned, one thing is to have legislation, but put it in action and make it work in real life. It's much more difficult. And we are here today to discuss these challenges and to see how innovation in companies can overcome these challenges. Barbara asked me if I'm going to speak about sustainability. I am Director of Croatian Business Council for Sustainable Development. And yes, we are in this topic because it's very close to sustainability. In fact, one of the SDGs, SDG number 5, is gender equality, and one number 10 is fighting of sustainability. Diversity and inclusion are very important topics. So this is why in 2017, we partnered with our partners from Slovenia and also from Romania, and we launched diversity charters in all of the 3 countries. And we had a wonderful event where over 22 CEOs of the largest organizations, largest companies in Croatia signed the charter. And together with forming the charter, all of us joined the EU platform of diversity charters, where over 25 companies are present in the network of charters, where we communicate, we network, we plan activities, we work on projects, and we actually share knowledge and challenges. The European Commission has been committed to promoting diversity and inclusion and combating discrimination for a very long time. But now, in times of COVID pandemic, diversity and inclusion are at risk, and so our attention, not just business, not just public institutions, but also non-profit organizations, cities, and citizens, we all need to work together to build equal and inclusive environments. As Domagoj mentioned, we are in the month of May. It's a European Diversity Month. We're celebrating this event with a lot of different activities, initiatives, which serve to motivate organizations of all kinds throughout Europe to put the topic of diversity on the agenda, specifically during these difficult times. Companies are also invited to organize diverse initiatives, projects, gatherings within their organizations or outside with partners to promote diversity and give contribution to European celebration. We also decided to invite some of these companies from Croatia and Slovenia to join us today and give us some examples in this virtual event of how they manage to and how they practice diversity in these difficult COVID times. Besides celebration of Diversity Month, we have been working on various projects, mostly aiming to raise awareness and capacity within organizations to implement diversity. In some of the preliminary studies that we've done when we formed the charters at the beginning, we realized that companies very often lack understanding of the content. They do not manage diversity as they would manage some other important impacts. They do not implement project management format, and that often becomes very declaratory without expected improvements and outcomes. Also, we noticed that they focus primarily on gender equality and are not paying enough attention to other vulnerable and minority groups. The desire of companies to manage mostly gender equality resulted in a specific group that works under Diversity Charter Croatia, Alliance on Gender Equality. Great initiative with number of great results, but we would like to see that similar alliances be formed around other minority and vulnerable groups as well. Since one of the topics today is also COVID pandemic, we know that COVID pandemic did hit diversity in a specific way. Croatian Employment Agency stated that during pandemic, among people who lost their jobs, there were 37% more women than men. We also know, as State Secretary Ribic mentioned, that women working in service industries were mostly exposed to viruses, and because they work in retail and as nurses, so definitely women carried greater burden of pandemics than men. If we look at some other statistics, according to the same agency, among workers who lost their jobs during pandemics in Croatia, 57% were over 50. Also, mostly jobs were lost by workers who have temporary contracts, among which majority are young people under 29 years of age. This means that every sixth young person in Croatia lost their job during pandemics, what made their unemployment rate increasing twice the rate of regular unemployment. So obviously diversity is very important to help spread this burden of pandemics more evenly. Our latest project that we have been working on is developing modular trainings with 7 modules that cover various types of minority and vulnerable groups to help experts in companies and other organizations implement the right measures to improve diversity in their organizations and to manage diversity as any other important impact. Since we are organization originally working on sustainability, specifically on corporate sustainability, we know that diverse teams, innovative teams can put more original ideas in bring radical solutions to what we now know is a climate crisis and to achieve sustainability as we want it to have. During pandemics, since last year, we have been collecting good practices on how companies reacted to this new situation regarding their employees. And we realized that companies, in fact, have done some great things to give support to this in these difficult times. We have collected and published a lot of such examples, but today we would like to hear, to have you hear some of these good examples in person. And so we have invited some of the company representatives that share these good examples with us to share this knowledge and experiences with you. So I'm very happy and looking forward to what's coming next. Domagoj.
Thank you, Ms. Matišić, and thank you, Ms. Zupanić, of course, and everybody else. So from the last two discussions, I choose keywords. If you ask me, we are obviously looking for innovative, radical, and inspiring solutions. So that is something what we'll try to find out in the next discussion. I also invite everybody to join us through chat if you have any questions or suggestions for my next guests and panelists, and I'm happy to present them to you if you don't know them yet. First with us will be Ms. Medea Lončar. She's a CEO for Slovenia and Croatia in Siemens. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello, Medea. I also introduce Mojca Domitar. She's HR manager in Atlantic Group.
Hi.
Hello, hello, and welcome. Dubravka Stefanos Vinovershki, she's a PR manager from A1 Croatia, will also be with us. Hello.
Hi to everybody.
Ivana Budin Arhenic, she's a vice president of Valamar Riviera. Welcome.
Hi, hello. Good day, everyone.
Hello. Katja Ratzinger from Novartis Slovenia is also with us. Hello.
Hello, nice to meet you all.
Hello and welcome. And at the end, Ivan Jankovic, he's a people and culture delivery manager in IKEA for Southeast Europe. Hello.
Hey, thank you.
Hello, everybody. All others, please join us through chat if you have questions. We will start with Ms. Lončar. And first question or from us is to present your perspective and your experience of key challenges you faced during this pandemic in your company.
Thank you for the invitation to this event. I think it's very important to discuss also and to somehow reflect everything that we have learned during this very unusual time. Because it exposed many issues that are in front of us, and we could learn a lot. For me, working in two countries, it was a specific challenge because I had to face a very dramatic introduction into this COVID pandemic situation. We had first infected people in Croatia in our premises. So we basically changed from one day to another to work from home in Zagreb. So when we realized at that time, it was not completely clear how the whole thing would develop. So it was much, much more dramatic when we realized we had some infected people. So basically we decided that health and safety has the first priority, and we sent all the people home. Yeah, so we managed to do it within one day. Basically, we just asked the people to pick their stuff and start working from home. Luckily, we are among the companies who were already before somehow practicing work from home to some extent. So it was much easier probably for us than for many other companies that didn't start with such activities before. The next day I went to Slovenia and it happened again. So the same situation in Slovenia, we also sent all the people in Slovenia home. So this first period, I think, was really a kind of crisis management situation that I haven't faced in my career for a long time. I've been also through this war in ex-Yugoslavia time. It was also very specific, but this one really reminded me on this very, very crisis situation. Sometimes we are a German company and sometimes we feel a little bit, you know, overwhelmed with all these processes that we have defined in the company. But at that moment, I was really very happy about all the Siemens regulation related to the internal also crisis situations, because we already had a crisis team established before who could start working immediately. So it really helped us, to have such a team prepared and made out of, environmental health and safety person, HR person, so communication people, SRE people. So all these people I could activate immediately. We knew how we should react. We held the first meetings and said, okay, what we can do first was protection of the employees. So I think we managed to do it due to the fact that we were well prepared in advance. Yeah. So this is one element. And when we settled these basic things, to somehow protect our people, of course, the next element I would say was really communication in this new environment, virtual environment. Again, we were used to work on in this virtual environment, virtual meetings before. We are part of the corporation, but still it's very different when it is going on for a longer period. And it's not so easy just to copy the previous way of work and put it into the virtual world, but you actually have to think how to improve things and act differently. Yeah, and I believe this is still our challenge also for the future. But this communication really to somehow tell people that you take care about them, that you think about them, that you involve them into solving the issues was the next step. Of course, a very important step, how to continue the business. Yeah, first we said, okay, let's keep our people safe, and now, okay, how we can really continue the business efficiently, because if we want to have our people safe, we have to keep their also jobs, and we really have to be very active here. Again, luckily, we are in the area that is, we basically were helping also our customers with the new digital solutions to overcome the challenges of the new environment. So it was perhaps a little bit easier again for us. Perhaps the first 14 days we had to align a little bit, but then really we established also the virtual work with our customers, webinars and so on. So it went relatively fast. Another element, only just to point out, was an emotional element, or the element of trust that we as managers had to establish, because sometimes, yeah, we had to trust our people, our managers, that they will take care about things, yeah, even if we don't see each other, even if we are in different countries. And this, I think that the companies that had good people on the positions, that had trust before, were really more efficient also during the pandemic.
Thank you. For now, we are going to Ms. Domiter from Atlantic Group. Ms. Domiter, your company is definitely not one of those who can totally rely on virtual business. So what is your experience from this crisis?
I would first say hi to all. Thank you for the question. And actually, there were so many comments in opening statements that I would also like to address, and I hope we will have some time at the end, because if I do it now, I will probably use the whole time until 3 o'clock. So I will stick to your question, okay, just that you know that I might be referring to some of the things before. Yes, so the biggest challenge for us was that we had a very, very diverse segments of businesses, diverse groups of our people whom we had to address. We had people that were working in our pharmaceutical channels, in the production or in the sales, that were actually not able to work anywhere from home, but being there all the time. We also had 1/3 of our employees who could work from home and actually had to switch to work from home over a day. And what we found out is that actually this pandemic opened our eyes to a broader sense of diversity, because we saw that within those groups, we have some sub-segments whom we had to address specifically. Like, for example, ones that have small children at home and that were had to be able to work while their kids were being with them at home, which if you tried, you know, it's a challenge. Like the people who actually are have some illnesses issues and had to work and not being able to have a job that can be worked at home, and how to deal with those kind. From people who actually live alone and the only social or the majority of their social life was related to work, and now they had to stay at home. From the people who joined our company in these specific circumstances and were actually isolated and they could not feel the culture of the company. From any other, many other groups that we realized have completely different needs. And learning for us in people and culture function was that we have to really stop complicating and finding the perfect solution, because there is no perfect solution, that we have to try things that we believe are good, test them, and then adjust them as we go along. And another thing that I would add, and I will not now brag about examples of what we did, because I think this is not the main aim of this conversation, is that companies that were taking care of their people before, I think in this crisis only showed even more how they really managed to do that successfully. So companies who were not doing that before actually did not do much during this crisis. And as it often happens, the crisis just kind of put to the extremes things that were happening before. Luckily, I think this one is lasting quite long. I say luckily because, like in anything else, we can take this as an advantage and as an opening eyes. And I see that a lot of companies are now pressured by all the sides to actually change the things. And only one last remark. I do agree that it takes employers, politicians, NGOs to really act unanimously to tackle DNA topics. However, I think that everything starts with the personal accountability, and how we do and what we do, whom we choose for our partners, how do we raise our kids, and what they are seeing in their everyday life, and are we the only one who do the domestic works, or do we share these things? Do we really include everyone? Is something that I think will make the biggest change. So that's all from my side now.
Thank you for now. We will definitely come back to all these comments you already prepared, but we are now moving to Ms. Stefanos Vinovershki from A1 Croatia. Your perspective of situation you faced during the pandemic.
Thank you, Domagoj. Hello to everybody from A1 headquarters on Žitnjak in Zagreb. I'm very happy you included us on this panel, and I'm also especially grateful to Ivan and Domagoj for bringing gender diversity to this panel. So with A1, with the start of the pandemic, we also faced a very diverse employee groups. As a telecom company, we actually started our digital transformation some 2 or 3 years before the pandemic hit. So it was easier for us to adapt to work from home. Our biggest challenge, having all those groups in the company, was to shift about 400 call center agents to work from home, while at the same time they had to provide best service and adequate products to our customers who are also needed to shift to work from home. So the demand for telecom products and services was basically multiplied. Everybody needed a stable connection, a good network quality for education, for homeschooling, or for work. Data traffic grew tremendously, as well as voice traffic, especially with the earthquake in Zagreb striking in. Another group besides the call center agents were the colleagues from our technical department which were actually providing customer support at the times when nobody would actually let you into their house to fix some problems you had. So when preparing for this panel, I wanted actually to sum up our learnings from the telco company, which we had from the lockdown period. The first thing, I will also repeat some things Mojca said also. The first thing is actually you have to ensure a strong team spirit. You do this by giving psychological, emotional, managerial support actually to your employees to give them tips and tricks on how to work in these new circumstances. The second thing Medea mentioned is actually we have to demonstrate strong leadership so that everybody knows in these crisis situations who leads them, and also that everybody knows his role in this situation at every time. Another thing also with Siemens in A1, our learning was actually that you have to communicate transparently, you have to communicate constantly, and ensure it's a two-way communication within an organization like ours is. Then you have to pay attention, of course, to parents and all the other sensitive groups, which was already mentioned. And the last but not least, I think it's important to sometimes have also a little bit of fun in these circumstances and let the women be in charge of the crisis management.
Okay, thank you for now. We'll be back to you, but that is absolutely one of open questions. But we are now moving to Ms. Budin Arhanic from Valma Riviera. We heard till now perspective of the companies who are already half or more than half virtual in business focused, from companies who have different concepts and products, but we are now moving to tourism, and it was a really terrible situation for you.
Yes, I've been listening to everybody. Hello, and to some extent, I think there were lots of things that we share in terms of the experience and what was important, what has stuck in my mind. But in terms of the impact of the crisis, I think it was very different for tourism. So we basically shut down the business in late March last year. We had to close all hotels. We had all campsites, all of our business activities. We had to basically we had zero revenues, which is unthinkable even in our seasonal business. At the same time, we had a little over 2,500 people employed in the company. And there was a lot of uncertainty, as you know. Nobody could predict how long is this going to last. When is it going to be over? And we were hoping actually that it might be faster than it was, because now we are 1 year out and we are still in the pandemic. So we did a lot of different things. I think actually we managed this incredible crisis for our business quite well in the end. Looking back, we are satisfied, I guess, within the context of what we've achieved, but it wasn't easy. The first and foremost kind of activity was how do we protect the jobs? And I think we are still today 1 year out with all the same employees that we had at the beginning of the crisis. This is also due to the government programs which were mentioned earlier in the panel. So we managed to protect employment, and this was our main objective. We were the first company in Croatia, I believe, to launch this job protection program that we called Pause Restart. We launched it last year on March 24th. It was only 10 days after we had closed all the hotels, because we thought it was our first priority to communicate to the company and the employees, that their livelihoods are going to be okay, and that the company is going to continue to take care of that, not only for a month or a week or 2 months, but with a program that is sustainable. In this program, what we asked was a lot of solidarity. So I think Ms. Župančić mentioned this before. It's empathy or solidarity. It was a very important aspect of or emotion in managing this crisis in Valomar. And so what we did, we said we're all going to sacrifice for everybody, right? And so we decreased salaries, management decreased salaries the most. Employees were put on the so-called pause program. So when they were not working, they were receiving 60% of their salary. And this still holds true today. So if we do not have work for you, you can be sure that you have 60% of your salary, and management still has reduced salaries up until this day. Also, our shareholders pitched in and said, yes, we're also going to support this program. So they gave up their dividend payments and so forth. So one other learning that we had from this crisis was the importance of having good relationships with our stakeholders. We were always a company that was responsible to all our stakeholders, primarily to our employees, but also our shareholders, our destinations, the local community, also our suppliers. And when this crisis hit, that's when this actually became even more important, so to speak, because we had the trust that we needed from our stakeholders to manage the crisis. So we could go to our suppliers and ask for a 6-month extension on all payments, for example, which our suppliers granted, you know, and so those were, it was a very dramatic time, the beginning of the crisis. But then quickly after that first dramatic phase, once we stabilized the liquidity, the jobs, and the company as such, the main resources, we said, okay, what do we do now? This is going to take a while. How do we prepare for what is coming? And so for the last year, what's also been actually very constructive and very good in Valomar, regardless of the fact that we were at 30% of our usual revenues. So we are really, you know, on our knees. If you look at the business side, we have been really focused on innovation, on new products, on modifying our current products, on preparing the hotels and the campsites for tourism under the new conditions. And this has been actually very stimulating also for those employees who are working on those projects, because we didn't say go home and wait. We said this is going to pass and there will be some other kinds of travel as we go along, and we need to be prepared for travel when it comes back. And we were very well prepared last summer, so that we did have a kind of summer season within you know what was possible, but also we spent a lot of time and resources preparing for this season. So we now have a lot of new services, a lot of new products, a lot of digital services that we have launched, because digital became even more of a focus now for our guests. So actually, it's been a year of huge downs in a way from what the crisis has caused in our business. But in terms of the culture, it has created more community, togetherness, you know, empathy, and I think we're all proud of that. So that's kind of speaks to the fact that we have done some good work on what we're talking about here today, on diversity and inclusion and building the right kind of culture and the right kind of values before the crisis hit. And it's also going to enable us to come out of the crisis, I think, faster than we would have otherwise, because we managed to preserve our knowledge, our skills, our resources, and we also worked on preparing for the future. So I think that's enough for now.
Just for now, we will be back to you, but now we are moving to Slovenia. We are moving to Ms. Ratzinger. From the perspective of your branch, the pandemic was huge changer on many levels, I presume.
Oh yeah, indeed, you know, and I can really share also experiences with Mrs. Lončar. We are also part of big corporation, so we also have in place Novartis emergency management system. And actually, when this crisis was declared, you know, we just actually entered this crisis model, and we had to adapt our daily work. So also our first priority was that we care about our people, that protect our people. And also we, for sure, you know, had to secure our business continuity as we are supplying patients with life-saving products. And, you know, this is from the corporate perspective, but from marketing and sales perspective, I still remember that we came back to the office from the European management meeting, and we were all surprised because all of a sudden, you know, we had orders in the system like triple value of the monthly sales. So how to supply that? So this was really very practical issue. But on the other hand, you know, it was quite easy for us to implement remote work, as we have implemented flex work already in the end of 2018, and this was actually D&I initiative. I was leading this initiative in the region Europe, and this was actually the first time when employees felt what D&I is all about. So it became more tangible. So with these policies in place, we managed to start working remotely like over the night, very smoothly. So 1,700 of our associates out of 5,000 have been working from home and having remote access, right equipment, and also right skills. And this was really very smooth. And we were very aware that this situation is especially and was especially challenging for parents and caregivers with younger children and also dependent relatives. And therefore, Novartis provided 12 days extra paid leave with aim to help associates with caregiver responsibilities to children and dependent relatives to cope with the closure of kindergarten, schools, and daycare centers. And also to help to balance private and work life, individual daycare for children of our associates was organized, and we implemented even more flexible working than before. And our guiding principle was to let associates decide what mode of work works best for them in their respective situation. And here, you know, as also previous guests mentioned, it is so important that you really have trust in your teams, and such situations really reflects relationship that you have established in previous times. And we have also offered our associates and their family members and friends excellent online training and education opportunities with different providers such as Stignum, Coursera, and Khan Academy. And, you know, this was really very well accepted. But when we got used to the new way of working, we also focused our activities in preserving engagement of our associates. We have organized many different lectures with external speakers and also organized trainings on psychological resilience and stress management and also active breaks. But as it was mentioned also from other guests, the most important of all was establishment of multiple communication channels to keep people informed about measures introduced and all other relevant business updates. And this really makes people to feel safe. And we still do that continuously. And I can only say that my personal experience is that despite working remotely, we have really preserved and even strengthened our collaboration and remained strongly connected remotely. And I really strongly believe in D&I. I'm very passionate about this, also in the role of D&I champion for the region Europe. And I really see diversity and inclusion and equity as a business enabler. And this can really be competitive advantage. And from these times, what I learned also with my sales and marketing team, because, you know, our life changed over the night tremendously. As you know, we were used to communicate with our customers face to face, and all of a sudden, half of the team needed to stay at home. For the rest of associates, it was not such a problem. But what I really learned is that trust is so important, and also regular communication and the feeling from the people that they feel safe. And here, you know, I was very transparent also with my team. I told them that this is also a new situation for me, that we are going to learn and to adapt together. This was super important for them. And I also told them that I don't know exactly, you know, how to do it, but we will do it together. And for sure, we will do some mistakes, but we will learn and grow together. And we really, you know, came out even stronger. It was very challenging, but we learned so much. And I just remembered now when I was listening to the conversation that, you know, it was quite strange when we organized a team building, virtual one, at the end of the year. In the past, we usually went somewhere dancing, you know, and for dinner. But this time, we organized virtually culinary course, how to make putitsa. So this is a national pastry. So just before the New Year holidays, you know, we actually sent out to all our associates all equipment needed and all ingredients. And then we all met in MS Teams. And, you know, we actually baked 80 putitsas. And associates said that this was the best team building ever. And, you know, when we started like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and it was 10 in the evening, and then they just said, so where do we go next? And then they said, well, let's move to Zoom. So, you know, we also can have fun. And I truly, truly believe that fun is a serious business tool. This is not my invention. It's from Richard Branson, but I sincerely believe that this is super important, that we also have fun also in very uncertain and difficult times.
And to be open with employees, like you said at the beginning, it's always helpful and I think right way to approach them. We are moving now to Ivan Jankovic. He is People and Culture Delivery Manager in IKEA. You also are coming from the business which was probably in terrible shock considering operating when pandemic started.
Yes, thank you, Domagoj. For the question, I would like to use an opportunity to thank you for inviting me, but also for the opportunity to speak about the topic. I believe this is the topic of today. Yeah, I'm representing a company that is majority of the business is done through physical touch point. And for what I can hear, more or less we share similar reality. When COVID outbreak, we needed to find quick solutions. And to connect to what Mojca shared, we realized different categories that we didn't pay attention to or were not as relevant as at that moment. But what I would also like to bring up is also that it's not just the company itself and the co-workers, it's also the whole ecosystem. It's the supply chain, your vendors, but also the customers or your service users that you need to take care of. And by mentioning the physical touch point is a place where we operate our businesses. Safety and security of our co-workers, but also our visitors was of the highest importance. And I would not spend my time in the mechanisms here. I think it was a crucial time to test all our business continuity processes and procedures. All the drills that we done before were put in action at that moment. But I can share my personal reflection from my team. What were the questions when this all started? Is I firmly believe that equality is a basic human right. And at that moment, it was our fundamental rights of free to move were also restricted. So at the time where our basic rights are limited, how to secure equality, how to secure diversity, and how to secure feeling of belonging and feeling of inclusion for everyone that is part of the business. I represent an organization and a team that is responsible for 5 countries. So I think Medea shared also that like Slovenia and Croatia perspective and it also brings complexity because it's a totally different dynamics, but at the end of the day, it's the complete team and the complete setup you need to take care. What I can share from the perspective of co-workers, and I'm thankful that Katja brought it up, is once the operations were set to, let's say, running in the COVID environment, and we realized that it's here to stay, we learned that we need to speak about resilience because now it's COVID and then tomorrow can be who knows what. We need to skill ourselves to a level where we can cope with the changing environment, whatever the change is. So that's why we, through digital or physical touch points, enable to develop the skills for the co-workers in terms of resilience, but also for the crucial players in the business, and these are people leaders. So we provided skills and trainings for the people leaders in terms of compassionate leadership, in terms of how to take care of yourself first, and then how to provide a psychological support, but every other support to the people in your team. Besides that, we've quickly introduced the employee assistance program to provide the professional psychological support for the co-workers in the region. This is a system that is available 24/7, and we're going to continue to use it as a practice onwards, because at that moment was the COVID outbreak. Then later we realized in Croatia we had an earthquake, so another insecurity incident, and then we will keep this system as we call it a benefit today, but I think it's a crucial element to support the co-workers.
Thank you for now. I'm going back to Ms. Lončar. You said at the beginning that you already had a crisis team and that you started to move smoothly. What do you think was the most innovative thing you did in your company in this pandemic?
I think it was a very interesting period for Siemens as a whole. Yeah, we were just going through this digital transformation as a company. Yeah, and for sure, pandemic accelerated this and really helped us to break through some, obstacles we had before, also psychological. Yeah, from the people. We had to move from rather conservative environment into really new areas, and engineers are not always the most, I would say, open for change. Yeah, I mean, the classical engineers, we have to slowly, somehow guide into this new digital perspective. Yeah, we have to merge this IT and classical world together. So this really helped us tremendously. Yeah. I don't hear you, sorry.
Was it problem also for a company like Siemens to go more digital, and did you have some serious resistance to do that?
Of course, it was not easy. Why are we changing? We started to change some strategies very few years ago already, and at that time people couldn't understand why are we making some dramatic changes. Perhaps you heard, like in the middle of this epidemic period, we carved out the whole energy sector because we wanted to have more space really to focus on these digital areas in industry, smart infrastructure. So these were huge, huge, dramatic changes for the company itself. We changed the CEO. I mean, we announced the new CEO in the middle of this epidemic crisis. And I mentioned before also that Siemens was very much regulated company in the past in this German way, but this was the period when Siemens really tested, and it was like a pilot phase to test more agility. They gave us really a lot of freedom also on the local level.
Let's go now from IT to tourism back. Because Ms. Budin Arhanic, you told us that you had to do some innovative things. What do you think is the most innovative transition or new solution you faced in your company?
Okay, we have to rank them.
Okay,
I mean, you know, some of the biggest strategic changes were in our product line, actually. So we realized that the trends or the mentality of the guest in the pandemic has changed, that this shift will not be temporary. So people, let's say, are looking more towards nature. They're looking, they want more privacy. They want more space. They want more authenticity. They're more worried about health. So we made some shifts in our product offerings to address that. And I think those shifts are here to stay. And those were some of the biggest changes. For example, in our campsites, we really pushed the campsite offer towards an open air resort, and really started looking at the guests, not just as camping guests, but basically the wider audience that we are now addressing. And campsites became our best seller last summer. So, and even this summer. So we were right, basically. This trend is very.
But when we discuss. When we discuss connections with employees in tourism, did you face maybe a runaway of employees from a branch? I know that the tourism generally in Croatia has a problem with seasonal issues and lacks of enough working force on the peaks.
Yeah, I mean, last summer, because the season was as it was, we did not hire as many seasonal workers as we usually do. And this summer, we were hoping to hire a little bit more, but again, we are not back to normal. So I think we were going to lose probably some of those seasonal employees, and we have already seen that they are looking at other branches, other activities that have ramped up. For example, delivery services or retailers, online kind of services. So yes, there I think actually tourism in Croatia was anyway, even before the crisis, was facing a shortage of seasonal labor. And this will be exacerbated by the crisis. Only for now, we don't feel it as much yet because we're not back to normal business levels. But in the future, it will be exact. But in the corporate segment, so where basically our, let's say, main central management functions are and the central know-how, we have managed to keep our employees. And I think this is a risk for the future. We have to be able to keep offering them attractive career opportunities. And that means we need to start recovery of the business, because they are here because they want to grow the company and not basically not only to just have a job, right? So we need to make sure that we go back to those programs which we have paused, that work on career development, professional development, offering opportunities for each person to grow, and making sure those opportunities are extended to young people, etc. So those programs were all in place before the crisis, but are now in our company still paused because we are still so severely economically hit by the crisis.
I'm going now to Ms. Domitar. You said that you wanted to address some things from the opening. Can I guess that you want to comment the position of the states?
Maybe to a certain point, yes. But I will also build on some of the other comments. I am aware that legislation is very hard to change, and I appreciate that it already started to work on that, but we are already now, I would say, a year and a half almost in a situation of pandemic, and saying that we started to discuss about changes of legislation, it's actually too slow. And we should have some adjustments to tackling remote work and or not only remote work, but conditions for people that have to work when exposed to this kind of pandemic much sooner. And as I said, that we were forced to be more agile. And I know it's not easy. I think the states should start to do so, and even for themselves to maybe make a mistake or to present something that not everybody is happy with, but just to give some kind of solutions. But I wanted to also comment on Ivana's case, because I think the tourism has been really severely hit. We had one part of our business, Horeca channel, which was completely closed down, the same as tourism. But we were lucky enough to be able to offer these people to choose whether they want to work in some other fields, whether it is a production or it's in retail or everybody else. And I really think that you did a great job, Ivana, in Valamar with the solutions that you provided for those people, because what we saw is that even though we guaranteed almost 100% of their salary, for those people after being without job for 2 months, this was really terrible because it affected their mental health. No matter how much we said, don't worry, we will not fire anybody, you will have the job, they really wanted to do something. So going to your questions, what were the most innovative things that we did? Besides launching 2 new brands that I hoped you tried, Jimmy Fantastic and Boombox. I hope you will enjoy this is chocolate and the oat meals. We actually managed to do some small changes in how to reach certain people, like we always used to have our value day where people would go out and help their community. They have been able to choose whether it is going to be, I don't know, animals, society, elderly people, whoever. We managed to switch that virtually by offering our people a chance to read books, audio books for blind children. They would tape them together with their kids, and then we would forward them to societies for blind people. We also did some cooperation with the Red Cross, giving them online education. And for our guys, this felt very important because they felt that they could give, especially when the earthquake happens. Also, small things. We, like many other companies, had a big deal of these sports weekends and activities. Now we have our internal trainers that are actually giving an online yoga, high intensity and the Pilates classes. And for our colleagues, it is cool that is our colleague teaching them, not some professional external, even though we offer these things as well. And what else was quite well perceived by others, and this was mentioned by, I think, Katya and several others about having fun. We had the Atlantic roulette games. So you could apply for roulette and then you were randomly assigned to having a virtual coffee with a colleague. That was across, we work in Macedonia, Austria, Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia, Slovenia. So you could get anybody from anywhere, and Russia. So we also provided them translators if needed, because they don't all speak the same language. And this was actually perceived as quite a lot of fun. But these are all small things. And I can't say, you know, there is one big innovative thing that I could put forward, but it's, I would say, showing people that you really care by doing small things that matter. Besides those important things like, okay, you will keep your job, we will maintain the basic salary and all the conditions you have, and we will give you support primarily through your managers.
Yeah, going now to Ms. Stefanos Vinovershki, you also said at the beginning that you had a big challenge with call center people working from home. I really cannot imagine to be employed in call center with family, with kids around me, and to deal with this kind of issues. How could that went out for the beginning? And second of all, what about corporate culture in a situation in which you have to join new people totally virtually to your company?
Well, with the call center, it went actually very well. Being a digital company, we already have a lot of digital tools and equipment which was provided to employees also when being in the office. So the shift was actually bringing all those equipment home. We were very, very tolerant towards parents, knowing that they're coping actually with their parental role. And this was actually the main thing which I mentioned, working with managers and making them aware that employees and that their people actually are struggling with those both roles, with the professional and the private one at home. So we were very, very tolerant towards the daily organization of the parents. So it went very well. In terms of onboarding new employees, we had also very much employees who joined us during March 2020. And basically, we switched everything to digital. We had, for example, employee introduction day where we had a socialization also with our managerial team. But switching to work from home, we made everything digital. And actually, for our digital onboarding, we also received some international awards we're very, very proud of. I could mention a lot of initiatives which were going on and which were very creative during the pandemic times. But if you want me to mention one thing and one innovation we introduced, and we're actually about to introduce, this is the new work organization at A1, where we want actually this private and professional life to be balanced in a way that employees want it to be balanced. This is why we are reorganizing our offices in the way that the premises are available for collaboration, for teamwork, for creativity, for brainstorming, and so on. Whereas the operational work you can easily do at home.
Going now
Domagoj.
to yes.
Can I just add to
Yes.
this one?
Okay.
Because you had a question. I don't know if you know, but I used to work at the call center at VIPNet, which is A1 now.
Okay.
And going back to the comment of the labor law, in 2004, we had a project of how to make a call center work from home because of handling the peaks. And the law that we have today in 2021 is the same as it was in 2004. And actually, it makes it almost impossible to follow all the rules and make work from home or remote possible. And this is not only, pandemic, even before pandemic, the life has changed. And it takes them, this is 16, 17 years. We didn't change anything in the regulation. So just to make a statement on this.
Actually, I expected maybe even earlier from you to mention issues like that, because we have also, not in pandemic case, but in Croatia, especially in Zagreb and Banija region, we have issue with the speed or not being enough fast, recognizing, not even changing from my perspective, but even recognizing the problems from the perspective of the state. But going to Ivan Jankovic again, IKEA is in retail business. What was most innovative thing you think you designed or changed during this period?
I think it also connects to what others shared. I mentioned a couple of mechanisms, and then I can also elaborate on how to support the co-workers, how to support the leaders, to support their team members. But what I can also share, and coming from this agenda of health and well-being of the employees, it's connected to taking care of yourself. We've also introduced, and it's recently launched, like sort of called additional me day. So no question asked day you can use for yourself to take care of whatever you would like and use it in the way you would like. It's a day you can use to put yourself in the focus and like mentally debrief. This is something we've recently introduced with an agenda and also supported with the communication. How to take care of yourself on a day off. But we also
when you say take care of yourself, did you have or do you have even today problem with their fear? Because this is the kind of business where they are directly at the end on many levels face to face with customers and so on. I mean, you cannot go fully digital like maybe some other businesses. Did you have problem with their fears?
Of course we had, and it was higher at the beginning. So this is coming to a question. So some of our, let's say, operations can be done remotely, some cannot. And then how to provide an equal treatment to all, you know, simply some processes can be done only physically. For example, cash and carry purchase, and then, you know, it's simply done in that way. On the line, of course, we have e-commerce, which is substantially growing, but part of our consumers and customers still love to come to the store, even in the era of pandemic, which is great. And then how to address the fear. At the beginning, it was first like, we need to secure the highest possible security processes. So how to protect ourselves from getting infected, but also to enable coworkers to share. I don't feel okay with this. And then to commit to share this within the teams, and then to find the best possible solution on a team level, how to secure everyone is happy with the solution, but also on the same side to provide the best possible service for the customers.
Okay, going now to Mr. Ratzinger. I don't know if it is too difficult for you to compare, but in those companies who work in almost all states around the world, can you compare situation? Do you think that you had in your division or in your in states you are covering, did you saw something what was more innovative than in some other states, or do you think that you can show us some practice from other states which was much better?
Well, I think that, you know, we all tried to learn from each other and to share best practices. And I believe, you know, that situations also from the customer accessibility was very different in different markets. But what was in common, at least from the sales and marketing perspective, what I can share is what was also mentioned by Mrs. Lunčar, that actually, you know, we everything became much faster with regards to digitalization. Not in our case, digitalization within the company, but with relations to the customers. So, you know, this crisis really speeded up many processes. And on the other hand, we really, you know, also accelerated remote interaction also by upgrading skills of our associates. And what was mentioned before was that, you know, also our associates who are actually going in the field on a regular basis and facing customers every day, you know, face to face, they were not able to do their jobs. And they also felt somehow not useful. And what we did in Slovenia was that, okay, we really engage them, you know, in trainings, in different kind of getting new skills, but also we actually invited them into production. So they helped in the production lines, and they felt really proud because they actually felt that they are really meeting the purpose. And this was really great. And they also had then stories to share with their customers later on. But coming back to diversity and what was also mentioned in the beginning, I really, you know, what I did with my team, I really listened them a lot, you know, and I gave them the floor to express all their fears and concerns and everything. And this was the most valuable for them. And I started really to paint together with them brighter future. So let's create our future together. Now this is the momentum that we can really do something differently. And what I did was that I actually started to build intentionally diverse teams. So people might be working together for 10 years in the same company, but they never collaborated with each other. So I mixed those teams, and this really, actually, you know, this is a cognitive diversity, which I'm very much interested in, brought so many great solutions. And now, you know, what we realized, and it is interrelated, is that if we want to really leverage this cognitive diversity, so how people think and solve problems, we need to establish psychological safe environment where everybody feels valued, respected, and heard, and safe to make mistakes. And now psychological safety is actually our diversity and inclusion priority in Sandoz, in region Europe, to build this this year. And this is really a journey. And just before our session, I was holding a workshop for my D&I champions across region Europe, so that we really, roll out this different mindset, this different approach. And this is so important. And this can be really such competitive advantage. And also about, D&I, we had yesterday Diversity and Inclusion Day in Sandoz. So it was all day, globally organized, and we had different lectures, from racism to equality work to green work environment. So it is really so important that we persist and that we actually increase awareness.
Ms. Launcher, you wanted to react?
Yes, I just wanted to say that there are some very simple things that I realized were very important, additionally to what Mrs. Rasinger said, because, for instance, mentoring, I realized that mentoring, can be a very, very important tool in such times, also in normal times. I was mentor accidentally, not intentionally, I'm a mentor, but to several women in times of COVID in Croatia, in Slovenia, and they had very, very similar issues. Ambitious young women, very successful, managerial positions with children, with same situations, and they really just needed somebody who told them, you don't need to be perfect, please leave some things, and sometimes it's enough, to be a human being and really listen to them and just tell them you don't need to be perfect, so it's not necessarily a high-end digital invention, but it can be really more focused on discussion, and this mentoring can really be a very useful thing.
Ms. Launcher, one question more for you now, following what you said, right? What was most difficult thing for you dealing with company, with your employees during pandemic? What was the most challenging the aim or the thing you had to do?
For me, especially, I realized, I had my own subordinates. And when I realized how hard it is for them and that some are very close to burnout, it became, and I really tried to relax them, I talked to them, but I knew not all of my colleagues are doing the same. And this was for me, it became a kind of frustration. I said, okay, perhaps we don't see everybody with their issues, because it's usually, and it should be really your superior thing, because superiors should have this close contact to their people, and then I suddenly, also in combination with the earthquake in Zagreb, some people were very frustrated related to that situation. So I became somehow, I said, are we really listening to everybody? Are all my people? So I started really to work with all of them even more intensively. Please sit with your people one-to-one, talk to them. Otherwise, we don't get it.
Ms. Domitar wanted to react.
I actually wanted to ask the colleagues, let's call them. I find it strange, the guest. I wanted to ask them one thing that I was noticing and thinking, and it's not very often mentioned within diversity and inclusion topic. What we saw in this pandemic also, especially with the people that work from home, that we have a very diverse socio-economic backgrounds that impacted their ability to actually work. Because for someone who has a room at home that is a working room and has all the condition, it was quite easy. But for people, and majority of people did not have such conditions, this was much harder. And it's a topic that is not so often mentioned. that you should have these various statuses, and then managers sometimes get blinded and think that something is easy because they live quite healthy lives in terms of having enough money and quality of life. Did you at any point tackle this? Because for us, this was a challenge, and we had to find some solutions how to make it easier for people that actually don't have a good conditions to work from.
What you did in your company?
I mean, we offered a possibility that they take things from work to their home. We offered possibility that they could rent certain offices if we were not able to open our premises, because sometimes when it's close to the production, we didn't want to have people in the offices, not to contaminate the people that work in the production. But it was, so we found certain solution, but it was hard to find a way how to offer it and that people don't feel, maybe the too strong word is offended, but how to offer it without going into your social income is lower and maybe you have this need more. So I just wanted to pose the question and to see, did you?
Anybody with experience like that? Maybe Ms. Stefanos, you have a lot of people probably working on different salary level and also economical background.
Yes, basically, I think the key word here is tolerance, and the key action is actually to work with managers to be tolerant and to accept the fact that not everybody works in the same conditions, that not everybody is able to come to the company when it's needed, for example, the technical support units. So I think the main thing which we repeatedly said the beginning of the lockdown is actually be tolerant towards parents, be tolerant towards the colleagues who do not have actually adequate working conditions, try to figure out how to help them. And I think a good thing which is also our learning, and which we implemented also earlier, but more intensively with the pandemic, do pulse service and ask constantly for feedback. What is needed is also that a concrete, visible actions are done based on employees' feedback. So I think those pulse surveys are actually something where you get the right feedback and can act upon it.
Maybe the same question with issues considering people with their private fears. Maybe it can go also to Ms. Budin Arhanic. Again, people in company on different salary levels, different economical status. First of all, was it easy to get information about their problems, and what you did in your company considering that?
This was really one of the biggest challenges for us, because also for a few months people were not working at all, and we were not meeting basically. Of course, some of the corporate people worked from home, but it wasn't anywhere sort of on the scale like some of the other companies. We had to reach people who were not working, but were still employed by the companies. So, and we had, most of those employees do not have email addresses. So once you go into the hotel and camping, the operational employees, they are not on their computers because they don't have computers. They don't need computers for what their regular job is, or even sometimes mobile phones. So reaching them was really a tough issue for us. The first communication is very important. So, I mean, I think probably everybody will tell you the same thing. You organize communication throughout the organization via the basic organizational structure. That was key. Again, like we heard, the management has to really know what they are, how they are communicating to their teams. And so you have to first, teach the managers how they communicate with their teams. But when at the beginning, when we wanted to send an all company communication from the CEO in late March, we actually had no way of doing that. It was an interesting challenge because we didn't have personal phone numbers of everybody, even in our systems. So emails also. So we took a while to try to collect this information, and then we actually created a live stream on YouTube, and we used our neighbors here in Istria, Infobip, to send text messages. Actually, we tried to use our telecom provider, but they had a fire in their server, some setup. It wasn't A1. On the day of trying to send this message to 2,500 people that they should, click on the link and see the CEO who wants to tell them how we're going to deal with this crisis. So it was quite dramatic, but then we ended up sending these text messages via Infobip, basically. But it was really, that's when we realized that we're not set up for this situation from a digital point of view. So then after a while, we got some other kind of ways of communicating, but communication was key, and especially with people who were on pause, who were not working. And also what's key is that you give people enough kind of information of what's happening over the next period, because as soon as we had some idea of how business could be restarted, we would communicate that, even though that wasn't going to happen the next day. I think that was also important, is to give people perspective, and also to involve them in the community. We had a lot of different programs, how we involve people in the community. We tried to really help our retired people in the communities, especially as they were at high risk. And then we also launched delivery service for all kinds of products from our suppliers, and some products that Valamar is producing. And this service is still existing today and growing. And that was, part of the way to employ more people, to be creative and to be constructive, basically. And so as soon as we gave people something constructive rather than, oh, it's a crisis, big headache. As soon as you give people some sort of next steps, a clear kind of view of what would happen, and some work to do, some things that we can do, that we can accomplish. This was really the best thing to do. Is people were really trying to, how shall I put this? The key thing was to give people the sense that they are still being useful, and that they are still doing good things, and that we are achieving something together. And that was hard, of course, in the situation, but it was still doable, even in that kind of crisis.
Going to Ms. Ratzinger, from your perspective, what was the most difficult for you personally in this situation? And you already mentioned some projects you pushed your employees into it. So maybe what is, from your perspective, something what must not be done? What is no in this situation? And you saw it around yourself.
In the first 2 weeks, we were a kind of confused in sales and marketing, and we wanted to do everything, like this would be the end of the world. And we were working like, crazy from 8 to 5. And I also had to adapt myself and also encourage our associates. Hey guys, this is going to last for a couple of months. We cannot go like this, forever. So we really had to stop and reflect, and also, help, especially young parents with children. It's okay if you do not do this right now, because you have to have to help your kid, with homeschooling. You can do this later. So this was super important. And also, still this well-being part and, work-life integration, work-life balance, we are still suffering because we spend, all our days in front of computer, communicating all the time. So, this is really, engagement in our company is still super high, because we are measuring this, every quarter, and it increased, especially last March, substantially. I believe that especially because of this sense of having being cared from the company perspective, and also belonging increased tremendously. But now, people are really tired. And we really have to help them to take care about themselves. So we also introduced many different programs like Energized for Life, which really teach us how to reach this work-life balance. And also we have now implemented a new working policy. It's so-called choice with responsibility. That means that this is a new actually working model. So it's more hybrid. We are aware that, we will never work the same as we did before, even if we worked remotely. But now this will be a mixture, and everybody will actually decide what is the most suitable for him and for her. But this will be also a challenge for teams and for leaders, because each team will have to find their way of working to remain as productive as possible. So we just now in May started implementing this in Slovenia, choice with responsibility, and that means that we are flexible. So now we are slowly getting back to the office, but it will be my choice whether I work in the office or I work at home or I work elsewhere. And this really allows flexibility. But, on the other hand, that means that 8 hours of working is automatically recorded, right? So even if I work longer, but I can also take a day off. I just need to inform my manager, and this is it. And this is really a kind of innovation, I would say. It also requires a lot of communication and discussion and explanation, and also behavioral change. I must say that I also personally, I'm still struggling, if I want to go, shopping during the day, because I'm used to work, from the morning until the evening, and this is it. But, slowly we are also changing in this respect.
We definitely all have to change, no matter if we like or not things which are going around. But when you said this counting hours, I have to go back to what Ms. Domitar said before, and law is still 20 years ago, not changed and not following the reality. We are almost at the end. I have a question now for Mr. Jankovic. Do you see something in front of your business that is changing forever? Not coming back ever to situation before COVID?
I think it's connected also to how we perceive office. Is it a building where we go to work, or is it our bedroom, just like where I'm now? So I think it also affects our coworkers, but it's not just reserved for IKEA. I think jobs of tomorrow, like job place as such, will change, but I think also job descriptions and jobs of tomorrow will also adapt. How do we work our jobs? And I'm pretty positive that, like, on the way, we just need to secure that we're listening also to the coworkers, their inputs. I think it was mentioned many times today, pulse or service or like face-to-face, however you can capture the feedback, so that we secure like we take everything into consideration.
Okay, the same question to Ms. Lonchar. Do you see something what has changed forever?
For sure, at Siemens, we're going to continue working in the way we are working now. Yeah, and this was a decision made already a year ago. Siemens decided we will continue working 2 to 3 days from home. And this for sure will change the way how we're going to. That's why first we are now focusing, as Mrs. Rasinger said, on the leaders. So we will have intensive discussions together with our leaders, how to organize the work in the new way. Yeah, also our offices will change, many things will change. Yeah, and this will, as you said, change also the whole society for the future. So we are stepping in a very, very different way now. What is also one positive element out of it is really this learning, democratization of learning, I would say. And this is one of the most important things also for the future. With this development of new technologies, it's extremely important that people have the right to learn about these new tools, and this I think will be the differentiator among the people, and also D&I question now, the right to learn. And Siemens, for instance, is now implementing this KPI, the hours spent at trainings, learning per year is indicating our success. So I think this is something we should think about. And as Croatia is really concerned, I would say, now work from home, our people are asking, you know, to compensate for the costs they have working from home. And in Croatia, this is subject to taxation, yeah? If you now pay the people that the electricity and everything is subject, it's not perceived as a cost. So I believe this is a small thing that could be changed really fast. Otherwise, Croatia will be really also in corporations perceived in a different way than other countries. In Slovenia, this is already settled. In Austria, it's settled, but not in Croatia.
Yeah, okay. This is the country in which even the paying for sleeping for employees or partners was recognized also as a gift or something like that. So it is huge. It is a part of bigger problem, I would say, in Croatia.
Medea, we show it as a transport.
Yes.
So
yes.
This is our workaround. We did not calculate down the transport, but we also calculate this. But it is only a temporary.
Way, but it's it's not the final solution.
It is not. It shouldn't be difficult. I think we can all agree to fix it. Ms. Domitar, what will change forever, and do you like it?
Well, everything and nothing. I think that all of the experience is actually changing us and putting us in a position that we have to grow and learn more. However, I do believe that as a social beings, we will always strive to be, I don't know, connected, recognized for what we do. And this is the basic thing that are going to remain the same. However, maybe the channels and the way we do it is going to be different. So I think that's all. Everybody before said certain things that are very concrete. I would leave it a little bit philosophical.
Okay, same question to Ms. Stefan. It's also not only if you're afraid or not of things which are changed forever, but do you think it is a danger or is it opportunity?
It's absolutely an opportunity. You have asked a person actually from a telco. So with 5G and the industry revolution which is coming, we certainly don't know at the moment which is waiting and which is changing permanently. But besides everything else, I have to emphasize this upskilling and empowering employees with skills which will provide them to be future ready. And I guess also the labor law will eventually need to change permanently.
Yeah, everybody waiting for that. Ms. Budin-Hanic, from perspective of tourism, the question, what will change forever, is a very dangerous question, maybe.
Yes, I think in some ways we all would like things to go back the way they were, with busy restaurants and overcrowded beaches and Congress halls full of business.
I have just to say one thing. I've recognized on myself how much I changed. I watched a movie and I see people gathering together, and my first reaction, what are they doing so close one to each other?
Yes, I think, but I think, I think actually once the pandemic dies down, these kinds of daily activities that we used to enjoy will probably come back. But the way we look at travel, the way travel industry will further develop and grow, the trends, the kinds of the value we put on travel, I think the travel industry will actually shift. It will not just come back to where it was. I mean, this was a huge shock, but it also made the whole industry really rethink kind of, what is it all about, and is, let's say, all of the kind of mass aspects of and global aspects of travel were also part of the problem, and I think I think we as an industry will also have to think about, you know, whether people still want that. And also I think travel will become more expensive. And there, you know, there's a lot of cost now that it will take a lot of time to recover that cost from the industry. So it will become more expensive for people and may not be as available. And so it, you know, we might travel differently or closer to home, or, you know, we will fly less. So there will certainly be changes, not maybe all that we would like to see, but there will be changes, but there will probably also be good things coming out of it. I'm sure. So
even I have a suggestion, concrete one, since I'm camping for last 20 years, and actually it's one of your camps now. I have a suggestion that you have working places somewhere within the camp, because it is not so easy to work from my camping house, which is surrounded by the noise. So somewhere within the camp, if you would have 10 working booths, that would be really cool.
Yeah, so the internet corner is back. We finally got rid of it. We never had the
yeah, something like that. That would be really, really cool, you know. So there you go, a suggestion.
We have in the middle of this discussion the new definition maybe of a digital nomad offer in Croatia. Thank you everybody for this discussion. I'm sure that you are able to hear some good practices, some big issues you are all facing, maybe with different variations, but in generally the big challenge for you, for your employees, for your colleagues, and for your companies. For the end of this conference, I will now ask again Ms. Matakoshi if she can give us one wrap up.
Yes, thank you, Domagoj, for not stopping this wonderful discussion earlier on my sake, because I will only say 2 sentences. If I had to conclude in one, I would say that my heart is full, because this was such a wonderful discussion. And I see that panelists even inspired each other, asking questions, giving suggestions. There was a little discussion going on in chat. And so I just hope that this event inspired not just the panelists, but also the other participants, because the whole point of speaking with each other like this is to share ideas, to share creativity and innovation, to be competitive with each other, to copy paste from each other, to help you know, make this society a better place. When you read to statistics and you know, news and media, you only hear bad things, and I think we don't have enough of the positive examples as we had today. So I'm really, really happy, because I work with these companies. I always think I know everything about what's going on, and I heard so many new wonderful activities that are actually going on within the companies. Ms. Lonchard mentioned mentorship, so I just want to invite every one of you to follow our pages, our social media and websites, because within the project we are developing with our Slovenian and Romanian partners, there will also be a mentorship program meant for businesses, for companies to join in. So please, if you feel like, do so. And just for the last thing, I would invite my colleague Barbara, because this is not the only public event during the month of May that we are organizing together. Just in one sentence, Barbara, if you can invite our participants for the event that is happening next week.
Yes, thank you, Miriam, and thank you all the panelists on the round table. I could copy paste from Miriam, and my heart is full the same, you know. I come from the NGO, and we do these things because we believe, you know, that each person, each company can do much for the society, not only for their employees, but also these employees brings out of the companies this good, you know, good energy to the family members, to the neighbors, etc. So I mentioned that all the sectors should collaborate. So next week, we are preparing a round panel like this with good practices about diversity and inclusion in the schools. You know, what happened in times of COVID, how did they do with these different needs of their school members, but also what they did with their employees. So how did they do the work-life balance of the teachers, and on the other hand, how do they presented the equality, equal opportunity to schools. You mentioned that employees have different houses, different ways of working. It happened the same for the schools. Children were not equal in these times. We had closure for 4.5 months of schools. So I'm working with children with mental health, with special needs. And I can assure you that these closures have affected the children most. I'm really against these closures of the schools, from the little ones to the big ones for the students. So this will be our next week roundtable, and I'm inviting you all to hear what the schools are doing, because we will have even one school that has 25 different languages spoken in their school. So in integration of children with very different countries. So please join us or invite your employees to see which kind of workforce is coming in next future to the companies. Thank you all.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you all. If I can conclude also, we jumped into the future much faster than we probably wanted, and we brought all our problems from the past, and we just got new ones. We have to deal with them, we have to survive, and if we want sustainable development in all components, then it is a huge challenge for everybody. Think of your employees, and thank you very much for joining us on this conference. And remember that European Union, European Commission is focused on diversity, but it also means that it should be focused on preventing any kind of discrimination and forcing and supporting diversity in all possible definitions. I also have to mention on chat, you have two also inspiring cases from Ms. Stefanos and Ms. Domitar. Explore them, and thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
Bye to all. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.